Good afternoon to you all, and thank you for joining us today for the post-ESA Council media briefing. I'm here with Dr. Josef Aschbacher, the Director General of ESA, and Renato Krpoun, the Chair of the ESA Council, as well as some of our ESA directors. As always, we will start with preliminary statements from the Chair of the Council and from the DG, and upon the conclusion of these opening remarks, we will take your questions. I would kindly ask you to indicate on WebEx or the WhatsApp loop that you wish to ask a question. And with no further ado, I give the floor to Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Anne-Sophie, and also good afternoon from my side, and welcome to the media here in the room and online. Let me start giving you some insight in the CM25 preparations. So we had a council which took place over the past 2.5 days, and delegates and ESA executive had a very busy and constructive meeting with a lot of detailed discussion taking place, addressing various open issues at this stage. So we worked together in a very positive spirit with the CM25 package in mind, which needs to be consolidated and achieve significant progress. And here I also wish to thank the executive because they put in a lot of extra hours. There's a lot of PBs ongoing, and that has been a great effort to prepare this week's council. There will be an additional council on the 7th of November before we meet again in Bremen at the end of November, once again to finalize and consolidate the documentation. More on the CM25 preparation will also be presented by DG later on. IPMA, it's the Independent Project Management Authority. This is one of the innovations we introduced the last year, and I would like to report on that. It provides an expert independent assessment of ESA's project management processes. Ahead of CM25, the EPMA has reviewed all program proposals through 3 review loops. In 9 months, they have issued more than 400 recommendations and have applied a traffic light system to ensure that the projects which will come to the CM25 are realistic in schedule, cost, and risk. And I can report that most of the projects, or almost all the projects, are green lighted, which means they have these realistic cost, schedule, and risk prepared for the CM25, and this will then go into the package to the member states. Now, reporting on member state affairs, we had today the Republic of Cyprus, which has signed an associate agreement in the presence of all member states. The process of ratification will now take place in Cyprus, and we look forward to welcoming Cyprus as ESA's newest associate member. It's actually a very timely development, as Cyprus will be able to subscribe to programs at CM25 and will also, as you are well aware, hold the presidency of the Council of the EU in the first half of 2026. So over the years, Cyprus has built up key skills and technologies in space through, for example, the Eratosthenes Center in Limassol, which is active in Earth observation, geoinformatics, and space technology. And we're very happy to see them more engaged into ESA in the future. And with that, this brings me to an end of my introductory statement, and I will hand over to Josef Aschbacher.
So thank you, Chair, and very warm welcome also from my side. We're in the final stretch towards the ministerial. I will give you a short update also on the meetings related to the preparation of the ministerial. But before that, I'd like to highlight a few highlights that we had, a few successes over the last couple of months. The journalists have received a copy of a presentation which I gave to the council delegates to really underline and show that ESA delivers, and we deliver a lot, and in the last couple of months we have done so as well. Let me just highlight some of them, but in the slide presentation there are there are much more examples than what I can mention here. We had 2 successful launches in the last quarter. We had a launch of Vega C for Airbus and CNES. CO3D and Microcarp have been launched successfully. They are now both in commissioning phase, and I hear from my technical teams that the first data, the first commissioning results are extremely positive. The same for METOP SG A1 and Central 5A, which has also been launched on Ariane 6 for EUMETSAT. Again, very important milestone and very important customers, both European Commission and EUMETSAT, in terms of the satellites we have launched or the instruments we have launched for them. Also, some of the updates, we had an anomaly of Jews. You might remember that we did have, right after the launch, an anomaly on an instrument called RIME. One of the antennas, or actually both antennas, did not fully open at the first attempt. It took us a couple of days to resolve it. This time we had a different issue. It was a software timing bug, which was disabling the signal amplifier. This happened on a flyby of Mercury, and which was resolved within 20 hours, troubleshooted by our teams. And I think this also shows that on its mission of JUICE towards the icy moons of Jupiter, there's always something that you need to be very attentive. That means that our teams are always not only on standby, but very carefully monitoring the performance of the mission, the satellite. And if there's anything happening, of course, we are on standby with our own teams in ESA, with industry, and they're working extremely well. And this is something, one more case in JUICE that we have resolved successfully. You all followed very carefully the mission of Sławomir Szuznansky-Wisniewski on Axiom, the Ignis mission, which happened on the 15th of July when he returned from the space station safely. The mission was very successful. We had a number of experiments, both by government of Poland and by ESA, which were conducted as part of this Axiom 4 mission. Again, very successful and a very good example of how ESA engages also with commercial operators, in this case Axiom, in order to enable flights with a very high scientific value, because the main purpose is really to conduct experiments and advance research and science. Flight Ticket Initiative. On the 27th of August, we announced the first flight ticket initiative in collaboration with the European Commission, securing initial missions with companies such as Avio and ESA Aerospace to test new space products and applications. Earlier, on the 7th of July, ESA has pre-selected 5 companies under the European Launcher Challenge, as you are very well aware, and we are working now with our member states to prepare the next steps of the European Launcher Challenge to bring them towards the ministerial to get the funding, and obviously afterwards to conduct work. Another highlight, which was quite an important one, was the inauguration of the fourth antenna of ESA's, fourth large antenna of ESA's S-Track network, Deep Space Solar Network. The antenna is a 35 meters antenna in Australia, in Noosa. The inauguration happened right after the ISC in Sydney, and it was really a very important moment, because apart from inaugurating the antenna, it also showed the importance of ESA's deep space network for our own purposes, in order to receive data and communicate with our missions far out in the universe, like Euclid, like Solar Orbiter, or many JUICE, or many other missions. But also it is a symbol of international cooperation, and we had the honor of having representatives from ISRO, from NASA, from the Canadian Space Agency, and other partners with us at this inauguration, because we are, as ESA, also providing services by offering partial use of this antenna to our partners worldwide. Then we have had just very recently, actually last week, Spain was signing the Zero Debris Charter. It becomes the 21st national government to sign the Zero Debris Charter. We have now about 180 signatories. Some of them are companies or NGOs from altogether 33 countries. I remind you also that among the nations we have New Zealand and Mexico as signatories of the Zero Debris Charter, and companies really, of course, in Europe, but also outside Europe. Let me also highlight a few updates from our side in terms of cooperation with other partners. We have been in Sydney at the ISC, and there we really had a number of bilateral meetings in order to report on the progress on many of our partners. So we had bilateral meetings with NASA, with the acting NASA administrator, Jean Duffy, to discuss next steps on Leo, Moon, and Mars in particular. We had bilateral meetings with Canada, being a cooperating state of ESA, in order to, first of all, prepare their interest to the ESA Ministerial Conference. They can, as a cooperating state, subscribe to our optional programs. And I can report that Canada is very enthusiastic to participate at the Ministerial Conference and really participate in quite a number of programs. And as it was mentioned, probably with a good increase of their participation compared to the previous ministerial in 22. We also met with other partners. I mentioned Australia. Australia, of course, being the host of the ISC in Sydney. We met the Australian Space Agency and other partners in Australia, but all of you have noticed that the Australian government was giving a mandate to the Australian Space Agency to start negotiations with ESA on a major framework cooperation agreement. What nature this agreement will take is not yet decided, but I can say that the Australian government was really looking at the model of Canada as one model to investigate and see whether this could be attractive also for Australia. There's no decision made whether this is the model, but certainly this is something that is in the horizon, maybe as a second step, but certainly something that also shows the intentions of Australia to really get closer in terms of cooperation on an industrial bilateral basis with the European Space Agency and our member states. And I think this is a very positive signal that the European Space Agency is recognized by many partners worldwide as a very respected partner. Our technical expertise is respected, is appreciated, and this really leads to more and more countries wanting to have deeper and more cooperations. Australia I've mentioned, but also many others. Talking of which, I have also had a bilateral meeting with Japan, with the president of JAXA. We have a very long-standing and good relationship, and JAXA has confirmed its potential contributions to Ramses. There are three elements that are planned to be contributed by Japan. One is an instrument, the thermal infrared imager, the solar panel, and the launcher, H3 launcher. This is the intention which Japan has reaffirmed. There are still some final decisions necessary in order to confirm that, but the very strong intention was really mentioned also through other means in the public, on the public side, on the side of Japan. Then I signed a memorandum of understanding with South Korea, so with the Korean Space Agency. Again, at the ISC, we also had a joint statement of intent that was signed, which is focusing on space weather monitoring, among other applications. And with India, we also had a bilateral meeting, again, showing that India is very interested to work better and closer with the European Space Agency. We are focusing here on exploration and Earth observation, but also other domains like the provision of services from the Deep Space Network are part of the cooperation we have with India. Let me now say a couple of words on the preparation of the ministerial package, which has been one of the main topics of our council meetings, including the council working group on Tuesday. I have to say, the overall spirit of all the member states was extremely constructive and positive. We still have a lot of work to do. This is normal in the final stretch of preparing the ministerial package. The financial amount is more or less unchanged. We have made very small adjustments. It is around the 22 billion. We have removed one mission, which is called Truths, which was indicated already earlier that this is a mission basically due to funding or affordability reasons that this will be taken out of the package. So this has been done, and this has been also proposed as part of the updated proposal. And then we focused obviously on a number of domains, as always, which are the domains that need a bit more work at council level, not only at program board level, but also council level, like exploration in navigation, in secure connectivity, in launches, and in some other domains. So we had deeper discussions there. But I really have to report that we made huge progress. Not everything is resolved yet, but we have resolved a number of issues. As the chair was just indicating before, we have another meeting on the 7th of November, which really will be a working meeting where we basically finalize most of the open issues. And then obviously right afterwards, the package will be submitted in its formal form to the ministers in order to be ready for the ministerial conference on 26 and 27 of November. I can really say that there's a lot of appreciation and recognition of the value of the proposals that are on the table of the ministerial package. They are all found very attractive. Member states really are keen on engaging on them individually. Of course, one big question is affordability, as always. So there's a very attractive package, and how much of it can be afforded in terms of available budgets in the member countries. The situation, as you know, is obviously different from country to country, but certainly the interest is extremely high. Let me say one word to you journalists. When you come to Bremen, or when you see the results of the Bremen ministerial conference, when I mentioned that we have an overall amount of about 22 billion, this is what is my proposal from the Director General, which is put on the table for ministers to subscribe. But of course, the ministers subscribe as they feel fit and as they feel as where they want to put priorities. But it is normal that never 100% of a proposal of the Director General is subscribed. This is normal practice or normal procedure. Actually, it would be not good the other way around if there would be more money than I have proposals, or if the money would exactly match the proposal. So it is normal that the DG's proposal is always larger than what eventually at the end of the 2 days or 1.5 days is being subscribed. So if you read a figure that is lower than 22 billion, that is not the case. This is not a success. This is quite normal. On average, in the past, we had subscriptions in the order of 90, 93, 95%, 93% probably more than 95. So this is certainly something that is to be expected, and I'm managing expectations here, just to be clear that the 22 billion figure is the first is my proposal, but then obviously member states decide through their available funds they have the subscriptions. With this, I like to conclude my part, and looking forward to answering the questions. Thank you.
We now open the floor to question. Please mention in the WhatsApp loop and on WebEx what if you want to take the floor, or if you want me to read your question. Okay, we have a first question from Peter Deselving. Peter, I guess you want to connect. Peter, do you manage to connect? In the meantime, is there another question maybe in the room? Yes. Please state your name and media.
Antoine Meunier, La Chronique Spatiale. It's more a clarification. You mentioned that one mission has been removed from the proposal. Can you repeat the name of the mission?
Sorry, maybe I was not clear. It's called Truths. Truths is a mission in the Earth observation package, which has been initiated some time ago, but it was decided that this one is taken out of the set of proposals.
Will it be delayed for the next ministerial?
For the moment, it's taken out. Whether decisions in the future will reinsert it or not, we do not know. But for the moment, it is not part of the package.
I give another chance to Peter to connect.
Now?
Yes.
All right,
We
thank
hear
you very much.
Peter.
Thanks. Sorry for the problem. Let me start with a couple before I get back in the queue. First, for Josef and Renato, on the IPMA, you said it greenlighted most of the proposals going to CM25, but not all of them. Could you give us a couple of examples of just how this procedure works? I presume there's a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. Do they have authority to block something being proposed to the ministers, or are they just giving an advisory opinion saying this doesn't look affordable, or the non-recurring engineering looks too challenging, or something like that? So just give an idea of what programs were not green lighted that you expect to take to the ministerial. And then a more general one for Josef. You mentioned that not all countries are in the same budgetary position. That's certainly true. And at some point, you might wish that the French budget situation might be transferred to Liechtenstein, but it's not transferred to Liechtenstein. It's France, which is a 25% contributor to the total ESA budget, approximately. Could you give us something, without embarrassing France, about how you're approaching the ministerial when France is not in a position today to give you its 2026 budget, much less a 3-year commitment? Thanks.
Thanks, Peter. Let me start with your question on France, and then I can say a word on IPMA and hand over to Renato. France's contribution overall in ESA is a bit lower than 25% you mentioned. I think it's in the order of 20%, but we can give you the exact figures. But apart from that, yes, France is a major contributor to ESA, one of the biggest contributors, as you know very well. And of course, the current budgetary situation is something that we are very well aware of. But I can also tell you, Peter, that France is really making every effort to find funding, knowing and realizing that space is extremely important, not only for France, for the whole of all our member states, but it's very strategic. There are a number of programs where French industry is essential. France is leading a number of projects, as you know very well. And this is well recognized and is really well understood. The process is still ongoing. It is too early to comment or to say what will be the exact level of subscription. We are certainly aware of that. We have very intense discussions, project by project, on what the situation is and whether there are some remedies that we could offer or that could be made. But certainly, there's no lack of energy and dedication to find good solutions. But there's still 5 weeks to go, and of course, I'm pretty sure that a lot of effort will be made towards a good ministerial outcome also for France. Then you asked about IPMA. The IPMA system, maybe just to explain a little bit in a few words on how this worked. We had 4 rounds of IPMA assessments, and at the beginning, in the very first round, there was a lot of red lights, probably half of them, if I remember well, or certainly more than 1/3 of items on each program, which was evaluated, and each of the programs for the ministerial package was evaluated very thoroughly. The evaluation is, there are 2 teams. There's the project team, call it the blue team, and then there's another team that is challenging the program proposal. And this proposal by the project team is very detailed, has all the elements, the content, the risks, the international partnerships, the schedule, the milestones, and everything is described in detail. And the red team is then challenging it in a positive, constructive sense to say, look, there's a weakness here. We would make recommendations there in order to really improve it. And this is the only purpose or the main purpose of the exercise, to improve the program proposals through this process. Altogether, through the IPMA process, about 400 recommendations were listed by the Inspector General's office, because they are putting it all together. And these recommendations had to be met by the project team in order to turn a red light into a yellow or green light. And this is exactly what happened over 4 rounds. And this is This was the threat at the beginning, that if a project has a red light, it's not in the basket, it falls out. But I can say that these 400 recommendations collectively have been implemented or are being implemented. Some of them will have to be implemented after the ministerial because of the nature of the recommendation. So this was a precondition in order to stay in the basket. One that fell out was truths, which I mentioned before, because of funding issues, budgetary issues. The others are in the basket but they all have undergone revisions, at least one, but sometimes two revisions, in order to turn a red light into a green light or yellow light.
Yeah, maybe if I can complement here, so that IPMA has been a part of the transformation and evolution of the agency asked by the member states. And I think if you look at the green light, it doesn't mean that the mission doesn't have risks. It means that the risks are managed and well contained, and that we have a homogeneous assessment of risks across the entire portfolio. And I think this is very important to understand. And now the situation we're in, Josef has mentioned it, the red lights have gone. We have some missions which are still being looked at and assessed, and these risks, for example, or costs are being adjusted until the ministerial, that we get a full package. But there is no mission at this stage which would be critical and would have a red light, and there is risk not to see it. So it's really a harmonization tool which has been very helpful and very much appreciated by the member states.
Maybe, Peter, since this is really, we are so proud of having gone through it because it was such an effort. Let me also say that this was unprecedented. We did not have this depth of the scrutiny in the past. It was a huge effort by all of our teams. And a very stressful one, if I may say. A lot of reviews and recommendations had to be taken care of, but at the end, it's really worth it. And as Renato was saying, it pays off because we have a good confidence that the proposals are robust, at least as a starting point. There will always be issues happening along the way. We know that if technology developments are challenging, as they are in space, but certainly we have a very good starting point when the programs are on the table for ministers to subscribe.
Thank you. There's no question from Will Robinson-Smith from Spaceflight. Will?
Yes, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. To Director General Aschbacher, you mentioned in your remarks having conversations with the NASA acting administrator, Sean Duffy, at the IAC in regard to both LEO destinations as well as Moon to Mars. I wonder if I could get your take on the recent developments of acting administrator Duffy proposing re-architecting the Artemis 3 mission to try to fast track a lander, given the delay in timeline with SpaceX's Starship rocket. And secondarily to that, just wonder your current thoughts on the development with the low Earth orbit commercial destinations, how those are progressing, and ESA's view on, if there may be a gap between the end of the ISS and one of those coming online, what that might look like from ESA's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Will, for the question. So first of all, allow me not to comment on internal proposals that are being made. We are following them extremely closely. But what I can tell you is that we have reassured our commitment to the cooperation to the United States and to NASA in particular on those elements where we are delivering contributions. You probably know them very well. These are contributions to the space station, the Gateway, the European Service Module for Orion, some activities on Mars where we have joint cooperation. So we have reaffirmed our commitment to that. And this is something I think which was highly appreciated. Of course, we all know very well that budget decisions have yet to be made in the United States. We are eagerly awaiting those. And until those are coming, it's difficult to speculate what this decision will be because on some of those elements, projects in the European Space Agency will be also impacted, or we will have some joint activities. But maybe to put this in context, I think I've said it on other occasions, but I'd like to maybe re-mention it again here. In terms of activities of the ESA projects which we are running today, the ones that are, I would say, depending on decisions from the United States and therefore on the NASA budgets, this is in the order of 5% of our activities. 95% are not affected by these decisions, but on 5%, yes, they are very visible ones because they are exploration to do with LEO, with astronauts, with activities to the moon and Mars and beyond. On your point on low Earth orbit on the LEO station and commercial LEO, again, we are working there very closely with NASA and also the other partners who are partners of the space station to define and await, I would say, also decisions in the United States. Certainly, the commercial companies that are willing to offer future LEO services are the ones that talk obviously to NASA and are therefore submitting the proposals to the NASA administration, but also they are talking with our industries and with ourselves. Some of them have European industry on board as partners. So this is a very good, a very constructive interaction we have. And I really can say that the cooperation and the contacts with NASA and our US partners are very strong and very solid and very good.
Thank you. Now I have a question from Ludwig Jovanovic from Rheinische Post that I'm going to read. The German Ministry of Defense wants to spend 35 billion till 2030. Will some money flow into ESA budget?
Thank you, Ludwig, for this question. I wish I could say the answer is yes, but I cannot. This is certainly a fund that Germany, the minister, has announced. I happened actually to be at the very same conference listening to the announcement. I was also speaking myself at the BDI event, as you may have seen. And it is a very important announcement that was made. How the German government decides now to implement this is up to the German government. I think the German government knows very well what are the capacities of ESA in case they would like to ask for our support one way or another. But of course, realizing that this is funding that is geared first and foremost to Germany and to German industry. But ESA is always working for its member states. If there's a request to support, we are more than willing and ready to do so, obviously, always within the frame of our existing cooperation mechanisms, which we have. But yes, I think there's still a lot of work to be done in order to see how this will be developing in the future. But overall, this is very good news for Europe in space.
I'm now going to couple two questions about the MOU announcement from Airbus, Leonardo, and Thales today. First question from Robert Wall from Aviation Week. Given this announcement, can you give us your latest thinking on whether this should go through or not? And second question from Dirk Azendorf from Design. What effect Bromo might have on ESA regarding the fact that main competitors will join and competitions might shrink?
Yeah, thank you for these questions. Very important ones. Believe me that we have been reflecting on this, of course, awaiting announcements of the companies which form the future Bromo joint venture, whatever the name will be. It is clear that this will have an impact. There are three major space companies, or the space part of the major companies merging. This will change the landscape of European space industry quite significantly. There will be one large prime contractor, and there will be other prime contractors, but of smaller size. And this is something that, of course, we will take into account in our future procurement assessment. So, of course, the announcement has been made this morning, as you all have noticed very well. So, what we certainly will do is we will make an assessment on our side, the side of ESA, together with our member states, of what does this mean for the ecosystem of industry in Europe. This will not be done before the ministerial, because this will be a deeper analysis, and the recommendations and interactions with industry and our member states that will happen probably very early next year. As you have seen from the news release, the process of starting the new company may take up to 2 years. So if we really go a bit deeper in this early next year. I think this is a very appropriate time frame. But I can assure you that, of course, we have already had considerations what this will mean. Maybe just one or two words on the announcement that has been published this morning. First of all, ESA's mandate and ESA's objective is to support European industry. And this is what we have done for the last 50 years and what we will do for the next 50 years. We are developing European capacities, European industry, and we want a strong European industry. And mergers among companies happen. This is good because it makes industry stronger and therefore more competitive on the world market. It will change the landscape in terms of competition, and we will take this into account in our industrial policy and the procurements we take. So certainly this is something that we will take very serious, and we will work very deeply, very closely with the three companies that are merging, very closely working with the other companies that are not part of this merger to make sure that we remain to have a very competitive industry across Europe and the different countries, and making sure that overall the European space sector is strengthened through this move. And this is something, of course, is at the very heart of our interest.
Next question is for Emma Gatti from the Space Republic. Emma, you can take the floor.
I have a question for the DG. I was wondering if maybe you could give us a heads up of the budget requested for the European Resilience from Space program, the ERS, maybe your hope or expectation for it, and maybe also a quick comment on the gateway. I was wondering if it's still going to be part of the ministerial package, especially with all the uncertainties after Artemis 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. ERS is unchanged compared to what we have announced last time. It has three components, one component in Earth observation, one in telecom, and one in navigation. Adding up these components, the budget proposal is in the same order, it's a bit above 1 billion. Of course, it is in the different elements, and I'm not going to in detail into this, but the size of the proposal or the financial volume of my proposal to member states has not changed compared to the meeting before, so it's the same amounts. Then on the gateway, yes, you're absolutely right. There are decisions to come on the side of the United States. We have some elements that we have where we have introduced milestones that will be next year. That means after the budget decision in the United States is known. There are some other elements where we will progress, I would say, and this is not only the gateway, but some of the other activities that are in collaboration with the United States. So yes, it's a mix of on one side moving forward. I take one example, which is Mars sample return. There we assume, and this has been in all the at least preliminary proposals made so far, that Mars sample return is likely not funded in the US. So this is certainly one assumption, and we are preparing backup solutions called Zefiro, where we are utilizing the investments of Europe in the Earth return orbiter. And this might be converted into a future mission, again for Mars, but for a different purpose. On other elements on the European service models, yes, we have measures taken to move forward and deliver our commitments. But as you say rightly, waiting for the decisions of the United States as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a question in the room? No, there is no further question. Sorry. Yes, please state your name and media. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Fabiola Gonzalez from the Flight and Guide. It's a magazine in Germany, but international. You was mentioning that you are signing some project or commitment in other countries. You were mentioning like India, you was planning, but you also was mentioning Mexico. How do you work together with Mexico?
Yeah, no, thank you. Mexico, I mentioned in the context of Zero Debris Charter. So they are a member of the Zero Debris Charter, which is very important vehicle, which is, I have to say, it's voluntary. We are not a regulatory agency as ESA. We are working on technical projects and activities. But Mexico was signing up to the charter as well. That means that they adhere to the principles of the charter, which are to remove space objects at the end of their life from orbit, and therefore making sure that the orbit remains sustainable and the satellites that at the end of the life obviously is being removed and not becoming space debris.
Okay, thank you.
Next question's from Paul Seahorse from ORF. Are there any negative impacts from inflation or US tariffs on the ESA's plan? And what is the status of the search for a leading company for the new reusable launch vehicle? The second one is, what is the status of the search for a leading company for the new reusable launch vehicle?
Thank you. On first part on the tariffs, the tariffs of course are affecting our industry, and this will be indirectly coming to ESA or to ESA's budgets, if I may say so, through the proposals that are made by industry. So indirectly, yes. Directly, of course, not, because we as ESA we are not exporting to the US, for example, if that is a question. But second point is on search for reusable energy. We have a program in place called the European Launcher Challenge, which is defining the next generation of launchers. We have, of course, two launchers that are now in operation, Vega C and Ariane 6. There we are defining right now what we call stabilized exploitation, to make sure that we have guaranteed access to space, that we have these two launchers that are providing access to space for Europe. But they are the ones that exist today. And at the same meeting in Sevilla in November 23, we have decided for a paradigm shift. That means to initiate a new way of procuring launchers, where ESA is an anchor customer, is buying services, and we have opened a competition in order to do that. We have got 12 proposals originally. We have evaluated them. We have selected 5 candidates that are now part of this European Launcher Challenge. Those 5 candidates, it's up to them, because we buy a launch service. But if you want to have good value for money, that means a cost-effective launch service to sell as a launcher provider, as a launch operator. Reusability is probably one of the most important criteria in order to save money and therefore have a good financial offer to make. So this is not a binding requirement on our side, but it's an indirectly, obviously, a requirement that is necessary in order to be competitive on the market. So yes, this is ongoing. We have these 5 launcher candidates in our proposal for the ministerial. Of course, now we wait for the funding and then the implementation of the next steps. But the goal is, yes, that they are that we will procure launchers from them. That they are at the beginning small launchers, but they will gradually become larger launchers up to heavy lift launchers. Not all 5 will survive for sure, but this is part of this competitive process that we have initiated.
Jeff Foots from Space News has a follow-up question on how ESA is dealing with the US budget uncertainty. Is ESA assuming NASA's support for ExoMars will be continued? And if not, what are the backup plans?
Thank you, Jeff. So I assume you talk about Rosalind Franklin rover, also the Rosalind Franklin mission. Yes, this is one of our priorities. As you know, we are having an agreement or cooperation with NASA, which foresees 3 important contributions to the Rosalind Franklin mission. We do hope that this will be coming. So far, we have not heard anything opposite or anything different. So therefore, our assumption is that the participation or the contribution will be provided as expected, or as expected. The 3 contributions, I'm sure you know them. It is the RHU, the launcher, and the braking engine.
Thank you. I don't have any additional question. I give you 2 seconds to request the floor. Unless there is an additional question from the room. No? Okay, online? Okay. I don't have the name of the journalist that is asking the question. Could you please provide it to me? Another question from Will Robinson-Smith to DG. What are ESA's gateway milestone coming up next year that you alluded to previously?
Thank you, Will. I'm just looking whether the director of exploration is here. Daniel, no, it's not. So we are finalizing our package for the exploration activities, and the activities are related to gateway are part of it. So we have some activities where we wait for the decisions, obviously, of the US, and therefore we are. Okay, to be a bit more concrete, we have Esprit and IHAB, which are the contributions to the gateway. We have the European Service Module, which is part of the Artemis program as well. We have an interim measure on the European Service Module that we will propose in order to be sure on one side to deliver service modules as required. On the other side, we may utilize them in a different way in case a decision is made that would not require them. We are hopeful it will be happening as planned, but this, as I say, is in the hands of the United States budget decisions, and we will adjust accordingly.
Additional question from Peter de Selding. What has been the member states' reaction to the IOA Square funding proposal of about 600 million euros? Sorry.
That has not been discussed in Council.
Maybe it is part of the standard proposal. There was no particular discussion on it, apart from as part of the overall elements of the program, but it was not highlighted as an issue that required special attention and is moving forward as planned.
Question from Dieter Zurich from Süddeutsche Zeitung. It's a follow-up question regarding the merger of Thales, Airbus, and Leonardo. Are you concerned in terms of competition and diversity?
Am I concerned in terms of diversity and competition? It's not a matter of concern. ESA has over 50 years always been adapting to changes in the ecosystem. We will certainly make sure that in the new setup, when it comes through the three major or the space part of major companies merging, that means that the landscape will change significantly, that we will make sure that our European industry at large, and this is big, small, and medium-sized companies, will succeed, and we will take measures measures to help them succeeding. And this is what we have always done, and we will continue doing. So we will certainly adapt to the new situation. We will support them in their build-up of the new company. This is part of our responsibility, but we will also help other companies that are not part of this consortium to succeed, as we have always done, and we will continue doing that. But I'm worried? No, I'm not worried. I think it's very good news. It's interesting news, and I see new challenges coming, and we will tackle them head on and certainly make sure that Europe becomes even stronger than before.
I have a sign that there is no additional question. Yes, from the room. Yes, please.
My name is Xue Song, and I'm from China Central TV. My question is, could you please give us an update on the progress of the SMILE mission, which was carried out by ESA and China together? And also more broadly, could you review how ESA plans to continue cooperation with other international partners like China in the future scientific missions? Thank you.
Thank you. I have the privilege of having Carol Mandel here in charge of science, of the science activity, including the SMILE mission. And if you allow me, I hand over to Carol.
Thank you, Joseph, and thank you for the question. Your question is very well timed. We have some very exciting news. The SMILE mission is complete. It's currently in storage, and we are preparing the launch campaign. On Tuesday, we will meet, and the director of the NSSC and I will chair the qualification for launch board in Amsterdam. We expect that review will go well. We've seen the preliminary report, and all of the outstanding items we believe are closed. The teams have worked incredibly well together. We have hosted Chinese engineers at our facility in ESTEC. We had a specially built facility where our ESA and Chinese colleagues could work together along with our colleagues from industry. The teams have worked incredibly well. The mission is being delivered on time. We're also very excited to say that we have now secured a launch window. Thank you to my colleague Tony and his team, and also our colleagues in Avio. It will be launched on a Vega 6 rocket, and the launch window is at the beginning of April through to the end of the month, so about the 8th of April to 7th of May. So the teams are now working in Krpoun to prepare for that launch campaign. And we're also preparing everything that needs to go forward for that. So it's very exciting. And we will, of course, launch during Solar Maximum, which was exactly the scientific priority for this very, very new and innovative mission, built jointly 50-50 between China and ESA. So we're very excited about that. As you know, we also have Mission of Opportunity, Einstein probe with our Chinese colleagues. That is also going very well. That's a transient X-ray mission that looks for high energy sources that appear unexpectedly on the sky, and we test relativistic astrophysics and the formation of black holes. So that collaboration is also going very well. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. I think we are at the end of this media briefing. We thank you very much for having connected, for those that are connected, and for having come to ESA, for those that are with us today. The replay will be available on our website and on our chats within an hour or two. And we thank you again very much and wish you a very good end of the day.